and gentlemen, please, can I ask you for your silence as we meet and welcome to the Auckland Boxing Association with its corporate night of fighting, the founder of the Blue Dragon Children's Foundation in Vietnam. That's the reason we're here tonight, to help these kids get a better start than they've had before. I'd like to introduce you to the man who's put the fight night together, and thank you again for your support. Would you welcome Dean, soon going to have his very first fight, Spice. And I'd like to introduce to you, who's come this week from Vietnam, ladies and gentlemen, the founder of the Blue Dragon Children's Foundation. Could you welcome, please, Michael Brosowski.
Okay, thank you very much, Dale, and it's a great pleasure to welcome Michael here tonight. I'll hand over to Michael. We're going to have a bit of a Q&A about Blue Dragon. My wife is down in the seat in front of Michelle, and I were in Vietnam and Hanoi, and we've seen the work that Michael's done, and you get an appreciation for the enormity of the task he has. So I thought it was a great chance to spend a few minutes just covering that off. So Michael was in Vietnam and Hanoi as an English teacher in 2002. And I'll let him talk a little bit about what he saw and what prompted him to start up Blue Dragon and where it is today relative from there.
Sure, thanks Dean, and Xin Chao everybody. Great to be here. I've never been in a boxing ring before. Hoping Dean doesn't start throwing punches. I moved to Vietnam to be an English teacher, and I had no dreams or aspirations beyond that. I was just happy to live in Hanoi, and I'd been there for about 6 months before I started meeting street kids. And if you've been to Southeast Asia or other developing countries, you know that everywhere you go in some of these places, there are kids or people selling things, shining your shoes. Well, in Hanoi it was shoe shine boys. They were all from the countryside. They'd all come into the city to make a better life. They were making money, they were sending it home to mum and dad. And mum and dad were using that money for their brothers and sisters to go to school. So these were good kids. And they'd come into Hanoi, they were shining shoes, and after work I'd be sitting on the street having a coffee, having a beer, having dinner. Because in Vietnam you do all of that on the side of the street. And kids would just come up and talk. And because I was an English teacher, it was just a natural thing to start teaching them some English. And they were so receptive to it, they wanted to learn. They wanted to change their lot in life. One of my uni students, a young man named Chung, he heard about this, and he came to me one day and he said, "Hey, well, this isn't right. You're a foreigner and you're helping these kids, and I'm Vietnamese and I'm not helping anyone. So let me help you." And that was how we started. We had no idea what we were doing. We had no plan, no money, no nothing. But we just got in there with the kids. And now, fast forward 12 years down the track, and we've got 1,500 kids who we care for right now. We rescue kids who've been trafficked. We have shelters for street kids. We have a drop-in centre. Lawyers to look after the kids. Our kids tend to get into a lot of trouble, and those lawyers are busy people in Blue Dragon. And we work as a big team to get the kids out of this crisis and then get them on the road to recovery.
So, Michael, what strikes me is you've got two prongs to your approach. Not only do you take kids in and feed them and help them in their need, but you do reintegrate them into society and help train them. You talked about the trafficking. I just wonder whether you could touch on that and tell us a little bit about how big a problem is that? We've had seen news headlines on the Nigerian schoolgirls being kidnapped, but can you give us some idea as to how big a challenge it is for you and what you're doing about that?
Well, I do have to say first that anyone who tells you statistics of how many people in the world are trafficked and so on, anyone who tells you a number is making that number up or guessing. It's a huge problem, and no one quite knows how bad it is, because a lot of people are trafficked and don't realise it. So we got into this work with the trafficking back in 2005, where we were finding kids who had been taken from Nigh in central Vietnam down to Ho Chi Minh City to sell flowers on the street or to work in sweatshops. And their parents had let them go with these traffickers, believing that the traffickers were good people who were offering them jobs. The parents had no idea their kids were slaves, they were working 18 hours a day, working through the night. The parents thought this was a good economic opportunity for their family. And when the parents realised actually what had happened to their kids, that they were being beaten for not working hard enough, they were not being paid for their work, the parents wanted us to get their kids back. And so we started our rescue work. A few years after that, we came across a case of a girl, a young woman, who had been trafficked out of Hanoi into China. She'd been tricked by a boy posing as a boyfriend, and he sold her across the border to a brothel. And she'd been in this brothel for 6 months, and she got her hands on a telephone one day and called for help. And so my team went to China just with the idea of just working out where she was and then coming back and reporting to the police. But that wasn't a very good plan, and we found her very quickly. But all of a sudden we were in a position where we had to get her out of there. She was in danger because she'd recognised us, and the brothel owners knew that. And so we had to actually get her out of the brothel and run to the border, and we ended up rescuing 6 girls from that brothel that day. And that was the beginning of our work in China. Now, to date, we've rescued 330 kids. Thank you. And in fact, it might even be 331, because my chief lawyer, this young Vietnamese man named Van, he's in China right now. We've had a call for help this week from a young woman who was trafficked and sold as a bride, and her husband apparently was a brutal guy. She's fled, she's been in hiding in a jungle, and she got her hands on a phone, and she actually knew us because we had rescued one of her friends who was trafficked, and so she called. And so I believe we're just getting her across the border, possibly right as I speak.
So you're running quite a large appeal at the moment, and certainly this event coincides, as it turns out, with your fundraising efforts at the moment. Can you give us an idea in terms of just what the funds are used for, and what the current need is, and sort of why you're currently running this big appeal?
Sure. All of my staff, we're all in Vietnam, so we don't have any costs, outside the country. I've got a team of over 60 staff working with these 1,500 kids, and we're spending a little bit over $1 million a year on all of this work. So that's all of the rescues, the shelters, the drop-in centre, everything that we do. Right now, we're running an appeal looking for about $270,000 to get ready for the new financial year. What we're finding is these calls for help are just increasing, and we don't know if that's because the problem's getting worse or because we're getting better known. We're not sure which one it is. When we go to Ho Chi Minh City and rescue kids who've been trafficked into sweatshops, the average cost for a rescue for one child is about $400. Now that includes the investigation work, going and finding them, getting them home, and then the immediate support, because as soon as they get home, their family needs some very quick assistance to cope with having their child back. When we go to China and rescue a girl from there, the cost is more like $2,000 or $3,000, depending on how far inland the girl or the young woman is. So these are, within Vietnam, those sums of money are not achievable, for the parents. Their daughter's being trafficked, they don't have a chance to get their hands on $2,000 to go and find her. But, for us, that's a lot more achievable.
Great. Well, certainly thank you, Michael. I'll finish off with a further question, but I thought I'd take the opportunity to thank everyone here tonight who were coming along and supporting the event. A lot of people who aren't here tonight have supported it through sponsorship of the various contestants, which is awesome. Thanks to ABA and the officials and everyone who's given their time and helped organise this. People have taken the tables. We've been supported by a number of people who have helped in terms of the night and the catering. Certainly a big thanks to Nikki Pennington, who said she didn't want to be thanked, but without her it wouldn't have happened. And of course the fellow fighters who either willingly or unwillingly were coerced into this event. But Michael was equally a humble chap, and he probably won't say this himself, but he was in 2011 one of the senior heroes, and he was in 2012 awarded the Order of Merit in Australia for his work in fighting for children's rights in Vietnam. So thanks for being here, Michael, and it's great to have you in New Zealand.
Dean's leaving me here alone, that's scary. I just want to finish up by saying a big thank you to everyone. I know Dean's already said thank you, but this is a huge event, fantastic support, and much appreciated. Thanks very much, everybody.